Hello, my fellow patriots. This is Alex Olafson again with another Disabled Vet's Perspective. I wanted to start out this show a little differently than I have before. I want you to remember to like my videos and make sure you get over there and check out my video about real news sources. Get off the MSM. It's got some great opportunities to get some real news out there for some other fellow YouTubers that try to keep up with the headlines and things like that. Also, I wanted to shout out to American Joe. Appreciate you, brother, being over here. He's an Army brother, so we kind of share some of the same interests. But I appreciate you being over here with us, and I enjoy your show as well, so keep up the good work. This show is going to be about the IRS. I know I've promised it in the last couple of videos. I keep saying I'm doing my research, and I have. I've tried to condense it down to a reasonable amount of time. I try to keep my videos down to around 10 minutes because I know looking at a face like this can be a little hard on you. I got a face for radio, I can't help that. But if you stick with me, I'm going to give you a little rundown on what the 16th Amendment is, and then I will explain how I have come up to the conclusion that it is not legal. So, here we go. In 1862, President Lincoln created a program called the Commission of Internal Revenue for the Civil War effort. Monies received paid for things that they needed so they could continue fighting the war. It was also repealed 10 years later, and the Supreme Court called it unconstitutional. So, in 1894, the Internal Revenue Service was reinstated, but in 1895, according to the Supreme Court, it was unconstitutional, so it was dropped again. Then, in 1913, the 16th Amendment was ratified in Wyoming by all 15 or 20 people that might live in Wyoming at that time. Who knows? The 16th Amendment gave Congress the authority to enact an income tax. Yeah, don't care about an income tax. The first year for the Form 1040 came out in 1913, and it appeared it had 4 pages, including the instructions. So that was the simple tax, and now you've got books and books and books about the information that you need to study for the taxes that you have to file. So, first year came out, 1913. It was 4 pages, including instructions. The first income tax was 1% of income over $3,000, with a 6% surtax on income of over $500,000. Notice how much it has changed. In World War I, for a brief period of time, the top tax rate hit 77%. And again, to help with the war effort, kind of catching a trend here. Get the taxes paid for the wars, funding the destruction. Anyway, in 1929, during the Great Depression, the rates rose again for a period of time. And every time things go bad, they want to raise the rates, get your taxes up, and it makes everything worse. You know, it's repetitive. Same thing over and over again. Kicking a dead horse or taking them out back and shooting them. And then you have to shoot them again because you don't know what the hell you're shooting them for anyway. So, it rose again in 29 during the Great Depression. And in World War II, Congress created the withholdings, the payroll withholdings, and a quarterly tax payment system. So, it's always been trying to get in your pocket. In 1950, the IRS reorganized and replaced the patronage system with a career professional employee appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate. So they took it away from a neutral system and they put it into a President-controlled system. In 1998, the most comprehensive and reorganization and modernization came to the IRS and made it resemble a private sector business. That's one shady business. All right, that is the 16th Amendment as it is to be understood. And now, the rebuttal. The reason that I believe that it is not legal and that my opinion isn't by any means isolated. There's a lot of people that look at this and think that they need to do a retake on the 16th Amendment. A gentleman named Bill Benson published his findings in an article called The Law That Never Was. He found that the 16th Amendment was not legally ratified, and Secretary of State Philander Knox wasn't just wrong, but committed fraud when he declared it ratified on February 1913. The 16th Amendment sent to the states in 1909 after it was passed by Congress and it was to be ratified by the states. There were only 48 states at the time. 36 states were required to ratify a new amendment. Philander Knox received response from 42 states and declared it ratified on February 23, 1913. Those states were Utah, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire. Let's see, might have missed that part. From 42 states. Utah, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire rejected it for a total of 38 states. It's a lot of information, and I tend to stutter a little bit, so you're going to bear with me. We'll get through it. Anyway, so we were down to 38 states, with Kentucky acted on the amendment before they even received it. You got to rate it. You got to sign it before you can find out what's in it. That's a continuing occurrence. The legislation didn't get to review it. The version described to the Kentucky legislation didn't have the words "on income" in it. When that was corrected by the governor, it was represented to the legislation where it was rejected. But it didn't matter because it had already been sent back to Knox. So, with that rejection, it would officially taken the number down to 37. Oklahoma legislation changed the wording of the amendment to the point where it was totally opposite of the original and resubmitted it for review back to Knox. It was just added to the pile of states as a yes vote. So, an attorney has agreed that the Kentucky and Oklahoma should have been no votes. This makes 36. 36 states that have decided to amend the 16th Amendment, to ratify it. With the number at 36, another state, if found to have not agreed to the amendment, the IRS would not exist. Tennessee was sitting on the legislation until the new election. They wanted it to be a voting issue, and it was also required by their legislation, their state law. They, let's see, get down here. Because it went against their state legislation laws, it was null and void. So, that takes the Tennessee acceptance of the 16th Amendment out. We're down to 35. The IRS amendment is now not legal. Texas and Louisiana violated their own state constitutions, prohibiting the legislation from empowering the federal government to add any additional taxing authority. So, they went against their own state constitution by basically saying that the U.S. government is not allowed to take any additional tax money from the states of Texas and Louisiana. No more federal taxing. So, we have now brought the total states down to 33. So again, we're already illegal, and we're just adding to it, like throwing a little more ice cream on the cake. So, 12 other states, besides Tennessee, violated their state constitutions, requiring the amendment to be brought before the legislation 3 separate times. This would allow for a cooling off period, so that the decisions would not have to be made in a rush or by emotion, the opposite of what they do in the legislation now. Everything's based on emotion. Everything is based on we have to do it right this second. Now, those 12 states are Mississippi, Ohio, Arkansas, Minnesota, New Mexico, West Virginia, Indiana, Nevada, North Carolina, North Dakota, Colorado, and Illinois. And now we are down to 21 states. So, Knox sent the certified sealed copies to the states to be reviewed by their legislature, and the states had to do the same to return the documents. They had to be certified and signed. 5 states didn't even return the documents. Ohio, California, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Minnesota, don't you know? They never turned in their signed documents to ratify the 16th Amendment. So, there was no way that Knox could possibly know who voted in those states, or how the votes came to be. Why was Knox in a hurry? Do you suppose that Taft knew that this was not going to be accepted, and that if Woodrow Wilson were to get in, that he would basically reject it? So, we had a little bit of a juggling going on to get something jammed through that would affect everybody's lives, and it was done in a haste. It was done illegally, and, I'm not sure exactly how to fix this stuff, but I think if we get on there and call our congressmen, senators, and House of Representatives, I think that there could be enough of an uproar to get somebody to bring a bill forward that would reevaluate the 16th Amendment and maybe get it declared unconstitutional. Imagine that. Going back to a system where the Fed is excluded and the money goes back to the National Treasury and the IRS is completely eliminated, and we go back to a simple sales tax system. Think about this. This would be unimaginable. We would have so much prosperity. I mean, we get taxed to death, and we pay interest on money that is fake and backed by nothing. But what happened was the Secretary of State, Philander, whatever the hell his first name is, Philander Knox, that is such a weird name, he perpetrated a fraud, and the 16th Amendment was not ratified. So, that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm going to put a link down below to the article where I read about Mr. Benson and his success in exposing the fact that the 16th Amendment is illegal. So that'll be down in the little thing down here below. And while you're down there, make sure you hit that like button and hit the subscribe button and ring that little bell for liberty, because if you don't ring the bell, you won't know when I'm on here, and if you do ring the bell, there's only a 50% chance that YouTube will let you know I'm on here, but at least there's 50%. So anyway, this is Alex. This is another Disabled Vet's Perspective. I hope I didn't disappoint. That was what I've been trying to put together for a while, and y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you on the next one.